Well, I'm honored to introduce our keynote speaker. Ms. Morel, actually it's Claudia Morel, and many of you may have already heard her speak or know of her history. She is currently the Chief Operations Officer for the National Alliance for Partnership and Equity. And this is an organization that's leading the development in new professional development activities for our teachers to ensure gender equity at all levels. It's being recognized, her programs are being recognized throughout the country and also internationally. Prior to joining NAPE, she was founder and CEO for the Multinational Development of Women and Technology, which was founded in 2007. And as a result, she received the Governor's Citation in 2008. Closer to home, she served as Executive Director of the Center for Women in Technology at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. She did that for 7 years, and she started that program from an embryonic state to a very, very successful program that also has received international recognition. Her efforts to recognize, to identify problems in gender, and I have 2 daughters, and when they were born, it really opened my eyes. I'm a scientist, I'm a zoologist. I never really considered it until I had my own daughters, and I started to see the inequities, and I just want to thank her personally for all the wonderful work that she's been doing. So I'm going to introduce, and please help me recognize Ms. Morel.
What an honor it is to be here today. Thank you. I'd like to thank Dr. Gottfried for that wonderful introduction, which sometimes those introductions are more about being old than being... anyway, and also Julie Walker-Anders for her amazing support. And, you know, and I have to also say hello to my colleague, Anissa. We were just down in D.C. at the NAPE annual conference, and she's from Ohio. So she came to be with you and kind of learn what the great work is that you're doing here. So we're going to start by talking a little bit about improving diverse student outcomes in STEM classrooms and what that means and why we're doing a major change, the National Alliance for Partnerships and Equity, in our thinking around equity in the classroom. But first I'd like to start by finding out who's in here. And what I'd like to do is just, let's see, where do we want to start? We're just going to start, and what I'd like to do, because we don't have a lot of time, is just give me your name, your title, and your organizational unit. Okay, so why don't I sort of start, because we got a big room, we're going to start at the back, and if you could just call out your name, your title, and your organization or unit, and just go right ahead, start right back there. I see a gentleman in the blue shirt. I just say, give me your information, quickly.
Joe Morgan, faculty in information technology.
Thank you, Joe. I'm sorry, Red? Brett. Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Frank. Is that right? No? George Frank. Thank you, George. Okay. John, thank you. Come on, we haven't got all day. Thank you. Next. Wonderful. Next one.
Greg Russell, CSM Math.
Greg, thank you.
George Stegall, faculty biology.
Wonderful, George. Say it again. George, okay. All right, next. Wonderful. I'm glad you're here. Wonderful. Glad you're here. Oh. Fawad, thank you. Tom, thank you. Say again the first name? Jim, thank you, Jim.
Charlie Walsh, faculty math.
Charlie, thank you.
Alban Wimmer, adjunct faculty, math and kids college.
Terrific. Thank you so much for coming. Wonderful. Thank you very much, but I'm running out of time, so I'm going to stop. So what did I just do?
You said the men's names and not the women's.
Thank you. And the reason I had to start at the back of the room, and excellent for paying attention to that, I think we had a lot of men at the back of the room, so it made it a little easier, was that a lot of times if we go through, if we do have a large audience, what will end up happening is, we'll just go around the room and people say, oh, you made us feel welcome, you made us feel whatever. Now, if we had time to go through the whole room, we could discuss it and think about how wonderful it is. But the fact that, did everybody notice that I only use the men's names? Yeah, a lot of people don't pick that up. Yes, sir. Now, I heard that clearly. I didn't always hear the names clearly before, but okay, all right. But there is a micro message in your classrooms, and oftentimes the point of a micro message is that you don't notice it. So the point here is that while some of you recognize that the men were called on and the women weren't, there were a number of people in the room that didn't notice. And why that's important is because what we're talking about are the unintended behaviors that we all do as a result of the culture within which we live. So we'll talk more deeply about that. I just want to give you a quick illustration. Today we're going to talk about who is the National Alliance for Partnerships and Equity and what gives us the right to be able to talk about what we're talking about today. Understand why we still focus on girls and women in education. And by the way, there is a shift in our thinking. We are moving away from this idea of gender to what we're calling intersectionality. And I'll explain that a little bit more. So you're not going to, even though we're going to be talking about women and girls and why we're focusing on that today, we're not going to specifically be talking about strategies for girls versus boys, because what it does is it actually reinforces the very stereotypes we're trying to move away from. And finally, we're going to talk about a new model for educator engagement. Because frankly, the challenge is that we're still standing here after decades of work, and in some areas seeing very little change. So we spent 3 years going back and working with researchers and top educators and state agencies and the National Academy of Engineers and STEM experts and equity experts and rethinking the whole paradigm. So, does that sound okay? All right, good. So we're going to first start with NAPE. So what we do are 4 areas. We do professional development. About 80% of our work is in professional development. The program, by the way, NAPE started back in the 1970s when a group of sex equity experts, that's what they were called, they came out of Perkins. Anybody know what Perkins is? It's legislation, funds, career and technical education. Okay, that's where the organization emerged. It formed in 1990 and created a foundation in 2002. But we've been in this space for a really long time. Research and evaluation, that's another thing we do. We do a lot of public policy research as well as creating our own. We work with universities around research. And we also, everything we do is based in research. It's sort of our mantra. If I'm talking to you today, some researcher took the time and did good, rigorous research, and we're reporting on it. We're not making this stuff up. Technical support, which means if you have any questions about public policy or any of the work we do around professional development, states often will call us. We have member states, and we answer their questions. We help them. And public policy and advocacy. We just came back from D.C. We just had a conference. Has anybody taken a look at the president's budget? Okay, I'm going to give you a little heads up on that. Because I think, and I wasn't going to, but I think it's really important for you to pay attention. Because it will affect you. The recommendation of public policy from the president around budget is that we cut about half of the programs in STEM. And that we consolidate into 3 areas, all the funding. So all funding for colleges and universities would be research focused for undergraduate and graduates through the NSF, and NSF only. All K-12 education would go through the U.S. Department of Education. All informal education would be funded through the Smithsonian, which currently gives no grants. What's missing? Community colleges, right? There's no mention. There's no mention of equity. There's no mention of nonprofits. How will that affect community colleges? There's also no mention of career and technical education. So if you're in any of those spaces, pay attention. If you're familiar with NSF, there's one program called ATE that's going to remain flat in funding, and they're looking about whether it has enough impact to continue funding at all. There are major sea change in the way funding's going to happen if folks don't pay attention and let their legislators know what they're doing on the ground. So right now, you have more power and influence than you realize. So just pay attention over the next few weeks, because the people that are making decisions about education, the best and brightest minds, are going to be people out of Stanford and MIT and Harvard, and not community colleges in rural areas that work with diversity of students, right? And as Caltech said, in a very rigorous study over many years, which led to a book called The Difference, diversity trumps best and brightest every time. So what are we doing? We have 4 programs. Pipestem Project works with institutional leaders. The STEM Equity Teacher Training is what we're going to be talking about today. This is our flagship program. It's been funded twice now by the National Science Foundation. We work, I think, in 14 states. We're expanding to 7 more. But it's about institution change. From that emerged the need to do something what we call micromessaging. We formally call it micromessaging to reach and teach every student. Notice we don't say all students, right? We look at each one individually. That's what we're talking about. We also have a STEM Equity Counselor Training Program that literally was just put out, and I have a toolkit. So if somebody wants to ask a question, the first person who answers the question gets this toolkit. It won't be released for a month, so you get the front row seat. And finally, just the tools and resources like the toolkit that we give for counselors and teachers about how to talk to girls and students generally about STEM and STEM opportunities, how to encourage them. And that's who we are. Why we care? Well, most of this data, isn't a surprise, right? It's, we've heard a million times about the growth and opportunities, right? But we also hear about, well, one of the problems is girls aren't as good at math as boys. And so what we did is, over a period of a couple of decades, is look at the difference in STEM performance core academic longitudinal data. This is the math assessment average scores for kids, boys and girls. Boys are the green, girls are the blue, at age 9, 13, and 17. Do you see much difference there? Not really. So suggesting somehow that one gender is better than another in math, it's just not playing out in the data. What's playing out in the data is when you disaggregate by race. And then you begin to see the top blue lines, and I realize it's very difficult to read back there, so I'll read it for you. The top blue lines, light blue is white male, light blue is white female. The other lines that are clumped together represent Hispanics and African Americans. And what's that about? And that's why one of the reasons we're moving away from this idea of gender, because there's this intersection around gender and race and ethnicity and ability. And we have to pay attention to that. Bachelor's degrees earned by women. Now, admittedly, this data is a little old. It's difficult to get up-to-date data. But I'll show you in a later slide that the more recent data suggests that we sort of got stuck right around the mid-2000s, and we haven't made much change. But in some fields, and these different areas here just represent different years. Back here's 96, and the far right is 2006. Excuse me, green is 1966 and 2006. And you can see that there was some real push, particularly in biology by women. It hit about almost 60%. And people are usually pretty familiar with that data point. Chemistry, just around 50, math, 45, and, you know, the only exception that really isn't showing growth is computer science. And what we know is girls have gone down in computer science, but we also know that boys have gone down in computer science. So what the research has shown is, while girls left computer science, so did boys. In fact, we dropped about 50% since the beginning of the 2000s. And we just have never recovered. Now, if you disaggregate by race, and again, what we're doing here, which you may not be able to see very well, this is pre-calc, calculus, chemistry, and on the far right is physics. And physics is really a key program for engineering. If you really want to encourage students to go into engineering, physics is often seen as a gateway course. And so, you know, we see, again, the difference females to males, African Americans, Hispanics, American Indian, Asian Pacific, and then white students, right? So we're seeing really interesting disparities, not only in courses, but when you look by gender and race, and trying to figure out, again, what's going on there and why are we not making more progress. Perhaps this is the most interesting to me, because it's really a reflection of what's going on now. It was a study that just came out about a year ago, and it shows community colleges and what's happening to associate's degree awarded to women in STEM fields. And the top line is 2008, 2009, and the bottom line is 2000, 2001. And with the exception of biology and biomedical sciences, the percentage of women going into STEM fields in community colleges declined over the last decade. We're actually rolling backwards. And that's why we're still working on this. And by the way, to a large extent, depending on the state, many of the STEM degrees awarded at four-year institutions are from transfer students. So if it's declining at the community college level, we're in trouble across the pipeline. All right. So, time to build a new paradigm. That's what we did. Excuse me. So what we did, what NAPE did, actually about 3 years ago I started on this, as I mentioned. I really wanted to find out where somebody was doing a good job. Where in the country can we find an example of a program that's really doing well? Can we take that model and adapt it? And can we do something new that helps us to understand culture in our classroom? Why are we not making the changes we want to see? Particularly among minority students, particularly in STEM, which is the area with the highest demand and still struggling in this country to fill their classes. And I have to tell you, particularly in Maryland, we have such a rich research area and such a rich need for STEM trained workers. So we found a program in Dallas County ISD, and that's sort of their public school system. I found this really interesting. So we took a look at it and tried to understand what's going on. Just let me give you an explanation. Dallas County, Texas, has a high percentage of minority, about 85% minority students, about 80% free and reduced meals, so very high poverty, very high minority, right? And sitting in the midst of all that is Texas Instruments. And they're deeply concerned about getting enough students in engineering. And so what they did, a group of women got together and they decided to put together a training program, professional development for teachers. It was focused on gender equity, but it added a new element, one that we deeply believe in. And that is a program improvement process. So that they didn't come in and train teachers and leave. They gave them a process for improving their programs, which is, again, very similar to our model. Now, here's what happened. They were particularly looking at physics, that gateway course. They trained some physics teachers and not other physics teacher in this gender equity place. And what ended up happening is that, as you can see on the top line, all right, so the training happened between 2003 and 2004. The training then, what happened was boys increased in the classes where the teachers got the training, and girls increased and continuously increased over a number of years. But the teachers who did not get the training, they seemed to sort of bubble along here and actually declined. What's going on? So here's what we looked at. What we found between 2002 and 2003 and 2009 and 10, 4 times as many girls in the training where the teachers had the gender equity training passed AP Physics, and that's a 3, 4, or 5 on any AP Physics test. 4 times as many African Americans and 6 times as many Hispanics, and twice as many boys. Okay. So that was a really interesting project. Now here's the STEM, this is our model. This is the way we think now about equity and teachers and classrooms. Will you agree with me that every teacher is different? Will you agree that every classroom you teach has its own unique features and people and students? It too is different. You can teach 5 different classes and every class has its own personality. And every student in that class has its own personality too, right? And so we realized that we needed to move away from this idea that in 10 easy steps, 1 silver bullet, 3 great posters, you could actually change culture in your classroom, in your school. That was no longer sufficient. We cannot keep doing workshops for an hour and a half or an hour, whatever, and think we're going to change the world. It just doesn't work. And so this process is what we decided to look at for continuous improvement. And now, anybody familiar with Six Sigma? Okay, it's the same idea. For those of you, it's the belief that you start with some data, which is the explore phase, looking at your classroom data, looking at your trend data, figure out do you have a retention issue? Do you have a performance? Are your grades high enough? What's going on? The teacher, the faculty member, are the only ones who can truly decide that. You are the master in your classroom, or the mistress in your classroom. You're the one who has the power in that space. And you decide what it is you want to impact. The second piece is discover. You set a hypothesis. What do you want to change? What's the basis for your belief that the problem exists? What do you think the problem is? This is a really interesting point because it allows for a little testing of the hypothesis, and it is often true that our faculty will find that they haven't actually gotten the hypothesis correct. For instance, we had 2 faculty sitting together. One faculty member was complaining he didn't have enough women in his class. So he was trying to think about what kind of marketing materials and what he was going to do to get more women. He had a colleague who said, but that's interesting because most of my class is women. Turned out it had nothing to do with the recruitment, it had to do with the time of day. Because during the day, their children were in school, and at night, they would have had to pay for childcare. And so there really wasn't a gender equity, it was just a timing choice. Selecting a research-based strategy. What NAPE has done is taken all the national strategies that we know are effective in the classroom, and based on what you think is the challenge that you want to address in your classroom, you select the strategy you think would work for you. Now, we did this program in the Community College of Baltimore County. I know Tara Ebersol, Dr. Ebersol was here recently to talk about what happened with her faculty. But what's really exciting about it is they all chose different strategies, which would make perfect sense. Because they're going to work with what works with them. Because if I came here and I said, I've got the perfect solution for your students, what you need to do when you're talking to your students is stand with your arms like this. And if you stand with your arms like this the whole time you're teaching, your students will all get A's. Now I'm going to ask you right now, how many people are going to stand and teach with their arms like this? There might be a couple of you who go, I'll try anything, right? But the reality is, some of you are like, there is no way my arms go any higher than this. I'm sorry. It's not working. So what we know is that faculty need to find their own solutions. There are many options for what will improve outcomes in your classroom, and you have to figure out what works for you. And you got to look at your classroom and figure out what the challenges are and figure out what works for them. And consistently what ends up happening, and this is the aha moment with what we've had now with our faculty, which now, you know, they're our biggest, I don't have to say anything, they go and talk about it, is when they give them the right strategies, they pick what works for them, they work with their students, and they see significant changes in outcomes, they buy in. And they go, you know what? I can't believe I got that much improvement. I think I'll try another strategy. And they work together as peers, too. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But this process is about selecting a strategy, acting, sharing with their colleagues, and evaluating the impact. And when you evaluate the impact, you see a little improvement. What we see is our faculty get pretty excited. Now they're talking to other faculty, they're trying other strategies, and we can step back and watch the continuous improvement. Now this is what's new from NAPE. What we did was we went out and we looked at all the research. And the reality is that we know there's a lot of research. How many of you have heard of implicit bias? Okay. So cultural stereotypes, they're all out there, right? We all know about cultural stereotypes. They're in the media, you know, everybody's got certain beliefs, they just filter in. And sometimes we're aware of them and sometimes we're not, but they impact all of us. All of us. None of us are immune from it. But it leads to certain biases. Sometimes they're positive biases, sometimes they're negative biases, but we hold certain beliefs. If you're a certain height, you should be able to play basketball. Sometimes we think because you're Asian, you should be able to do math better. It just sort of filters through our thinking about what people are capable of, and it's based on something, some sort of demographic data or ethnicity that probably has nothing to do with it. It just kind of filters in. And we take those with us into the classroom, and our students bring them into the classroom as well. Those biases, the thing we haven't talked about is this idea of micro-messages. Micro-messages are those things, those small, unintended languages, our body language, the way we look, the way we think about certain things that come in that others pick up from us. Okay? And this is what we call the missing link. Because micro-messages will often inform how we see the world. And in fact, it is over time that the accumulation of those messages will inform what we think about our own self-efficacy, our capacity to be successful. You see, it's not about self-confidence. It's about the belief about whether if you go down this pathway, at the end you can be successful. And if your belief is that I can't be successful at the end of this pathway, no matter how hard or how high, I try, you're not going to start. And we see students with that attitude who come into our classroom all the time. And you can say to them, you too could be a physicist because you're good in that math class. And they're thinking, oh, look at all these other messages I have in my head that tell me I'll never manage it. Right? So you're already combating hundreds and thousands of messages. Okay? That leads to behavior, which leads to cultural stereotypes. Right? Okay. Just want to make sure. Now, what are the kinds of micro-messages? We have small, subtle, semi-conscious messages we send and receive when we interact with others. So my mother walks up to me and she says, are you going to put that much butter in the potatoes? And I go, butter? What? I can put as much butter in these potatoes as I want. I can do. And my family's like, it's just that's a little butter. I mean, what's the deal here? What they don't get is a lifetime of my mother saying, you're going to turn it up that high? You're going to put salt in it? Or are you going to, right? It's the last micro message. Now that's important because the micro message is about not the first one. It's the last one. And what people don't understand is when you see something that hits you as an inequity, it could be the last one. Can you believe that poster? I can't believe it. It didn't have any women in it. Blah! And somebody's like, oh, for heaven's sakes, it's a poster. because it's really visible to them. It has been visible for a long time. And if it hasn't been visible to you because you're from a different cultural perspective or it doesn't generally impact you, you may not have the same reaction. And so what we're talking about here is the difference between what is visible and what is invisible. And so when people will say, you know, there's really no more inequity in the world. It's all solved. Girls are 60% of the, undergraduates. And somebody's like, are you kidding? Ah! It's because there's so many things still going on in the culture that others who are not part of that experience maybe haven't experienced. So there's nobody wrong here. It's just really an awareness and helping each other see what's happening in the culture. Micro-inequities then are the negative micro-messages, but there's also micro-affirmations, the millions of little positive messages that we give, hopefully, to our students and our children every day, and then we're giving to each other, right? So, tell me if you have children. Raise your hand, please. Okay. You bring your baby home from the hospital. You only have one? Doesn't matter. It's okay. One will do. Okay. You bring your baby home from the hospital, your precious little bundle of joy. You take them into the little nursery that you've created. You put them into the little crib with all the beautiful little sheets. And over that crib is the pennant from your college that you attended. And on your T-shirt that you wear when you're going to play sports, you're going out, is the name of your college or university. And then at some point you're reminiscing with some friends and you say, oh, do you remember that great time we had with that group when I was in college then? How likely are your children, those children, going to go to college? Did you say to them, you're going to college? Maybe you did at some point. But mostly the message of going to college happened long before you said a word. So recently a woman came up to me and she said, my 4-year-old daughter told me that she couldn't be an astronaut because girls can't be astronauts. How does a 4-year-old get that message? She thought, oh, it must be the preschool you went to. She said to her daughter, where did you get that? Did they tell you that at the preschool? She's like, no, I figured it all out by myself. Somewhere in those, long before you started talking to these children, they got the micro-inequities. Your challenge is to inoculate against the micro-inequities and affirm the micro-messages. That's your job. So when we talk about changing the culture of your classroom, I'm not saying, because I know what y'all are thinking, I am so busy, there is no more time. I'm not talking about some massive change. I'm talking about a small, subtle change that maybe you haven't been paying attention to, that if you were aware of it and you made that small, subtle change, it can make a huge difference. Now, a lot of people go, oh, come on, a little, But you think about it, and we'll talk about it a little bit more, but think about it. In your lifetime, the points where somebody said something to you that was very powerful, think about that for a minute. Were they intending to say it to you? Were they trying to change your life when they said it? Or was it a comment that they threw out to you in a minute, and 5 minutes later they completely forgot they even said it, impacting your whole decision-making process? Right? So, is there any gender inequity left? 2012. Super light superhero stuff. This little boy's backpack. Matthew's got a soccer ball on it. Any boys in here, young men, want to be a superhero when they were a kid? Come on, raise your hand. I know. I see you. And I know you wanted that lunchbox with the superheroes on it, and you probably wore underoos with the superheroes on them. Had the pajamas with the superheroes. I know. Superheroes, and we could talk about the cultural impact of superheroes, good, bad, whatever. But for the most part, it's considered kind of a positive image. Would you agree with me on that? Here's the girls. Now, some people will be like, oh, no big deal. It's not. But some of us who've had a lifetime of micro-messaging about girls' ability to do math, in 2012, would look at that and go, are you kidding? I want to be a superhero. I want this message. Make it easy for me. I don't need it easy for me. Right? That's what we're talking about. Drip, drip, drip. The accumulation of advantage and disadvantage. All right, I need 5 victims. I need volunteers. Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the gentleman at the back, 5. Come on down, Price is Right. Come right over here. Yeah, come on up. I'm going to need to drag this over so that we can get it on the mic, right? Or do I just stand here and it'll work? Okay. Nope, you stand right here, right in front. We're going to have you in front. You're going to form this around this. Come on down, George. All right, you're going to be writing on this. No. I tried to get the guys, but I had to go quickly, and I only have one. Okay. Now, I hope all of you have loud voices, because we need people at the back to hear you. And what we're going to do, I have a marker who's going to take notes. Thank you. And what we're going to do is we're going to have you speak. You're my class. You're my class. Okay? And I've called up my 5 students. And I want them to brainstorm ideas for how to increase equity in their classroom, things they can do to encourage girls or underrepresented populations to consider careers in science, technology, engineering, and math. Okay? I want you to work together. You're taking the notes, but you can also share ideas. So everybody, and as quickly as you can, and you've got about 2 minutes, so go quickly. And I'll try and repeat what they say so you make sure you hear it. Okay, loudly. I need you to also talk out here so we can all hear you.
Okay, so let the kids choose their own partners so they get to work with people they feel comfortable with.
Choosing partners? Okay, come on.
Apply what you're teaching to their life experiences that you think they have already done. If they have kids, apply it to how you teach kids something.
Apply examples to teaching kids. Good. Okay, what else?
Show models.
Role models. Good. Okay, what else?
Model the behavior you want them to do.
Model the behavior you want them to do. Great idea. Okay, next.
Act out things.
Act out things. Perfect. Acting. Okay. All right.
Validate the behaviors that you want to see.
Validate the behaviors you want to see. Good. Affirmations. Perfect. What else?
Include everyone. Don't just call on the same person all the time.
Tiffany's rocking here. Yeah. Call on everybody. Absolutely. Great idea. Okay. What else?
Use songs and things like that that could help it stick in their head.
Songs. Create some songs. Use songs you know to create ideas. Perfect. Keep going.
Let it be participatory learning.
Participatory learning.
Problem-based.
Problem-based. Always good. We love problems, right? Solving. Anyway, right?
Get them up, move them around. Don't let them just be sedentary.
Right. You can move to the other board if you need to. Good. Getting people moving up. Okay. Perfect. All right. Couple more.
Make it exciting with games and
Use games and different things. Perfect. Exactly. Good. All right.
Real life situations.
Okay. Real life situations. Okay. Perfect. That's okay. We're complimenting it. Good. It's the one we need to feature. Okay. Anything else? Anything else?
their opinion.
Get their opinion. Good. Excellent. Okay.
Let them teach a unit.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Let them teach a unit. Okay. All right. Empower the students to take a part of their own learning. Perfect.
Let them figure out how they're going to approach a problem.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. How they're going to approach a problem. Good. Okay. Did they do a good job? George, you're a little quiet. How are you feeling about that exercise? You doing good?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, now you can't leave. We're going to part 2 now.
Okay.
I need somebody to, would you help me, sir? Okay, I need you all to just come here and turn your backs to the audience. Okay. All right, now here's the thing. They can't watch me. Don't look at me. Look that way.
All you just peek.
No. Don't look. Don't look. All right, I got some cheaters up here. All right, so here's the deal. Labels are really important. Remembering that your students come in with a history of micromessaging. They're coming in from other classrooms. Their peers have given them messages, their parents, their families, the media, whatever. And they formed in their minds their own ideas, their own identities of who they are, which may or may not be accurate, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to give labels to these folks that they're not going to know what's on their head. But what we want you, you're my class, to behave towards them based on their labels. You see that? If you can't see it, you can move forward because there's room up here. All right, so I'm going to come over here. Let's see, we'll start on this side. Don't look. Now you can look at each other's labels, but you can't look at your own, okay? Okay.
I feel like the Karate Kid.
No, it's true.
Okay, show it to the hands. In a minute, we'll turn around. Yeah. All right, so do not tell them what it says on their head. You all can turn around. All right. We're going to start on this one. Let's see, we need a marker here. I'm going to use the red one. Okay, and hopefully, again, it's okay to get up and just look a little closer at the labels if you can't see them from the back. But basically, we're going to react, and as the teacher, I'm going to react to these students based on their labels, all right? And you all must react. You must react, because if you know each other, it doesn't work, just to the label, all right? Understand? Okay. Okay. Who wants to do the writing? Who's going to take the notes?
I'll do the writing. Or you do the line.
Yeah, I think
Well, you don't know.
I really need somebody.
You do it. You don't know anything. Why don't we let her do it?
Perfect. All right. So we're going to do this activity again. I want you to give me everything you can think of to how to increase students in STEM, okay? You guys go give them some answers. Go give this woman her help. And by the way, anything you have to say, we want to hear it.
Could you repeat that one more time, please?
Can you just calm down a little bit and stop asking me?
Stop talking so much.
All right. So pay attention. We're just going to go through this activity again. I need you to put down the ways to get students in STEM. We just have a couple minutes. So.
What do you think? What should we do?
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right, come on. We only have a couple minutes.
Give me some ideas. We're waiting on you.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
Tell us what to do. One thing, and then we can go by your example.
Did you hear a buzzing sound here somewhere? I don't. All right. We need some ideas. Come on, people. We haven't gone all day. What? Did you hear something? What are you? What?
It's nice to see that you...
How can you? What are you seeing? I don't know what you're seeing. You need to get glasses. You're wonderful. You're wonderful. So don't let me think this is not a criticism.
Keep going on the list.
Innovative ways to do things, so you have to do that list.
You're out of
Yeah,
the box.
listen to her.
Out of the box. Out of the box. I think we
Stop
should-
talking. You always say
You are
this.
so funny.
I think we should go over and sit over there.
head things off. Stand up here and tell me how that went.
It was really bad.
All right, we'll start over here. Tell me your name again. I'm sorry.
Melissa,
Melissa, tell me how you felt. What is happening with you?
I think I must be very bossy. And
Okay, and how did that make you feel?
really kind of, I didn't feel very good about myself at all.
Okay, all right. And how long would you have kept giving answers?
Probably not very long.
Okay, why don't you take your head off and take a look. See if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, that's me.
And how did you feel?
Clueless, although.
You felt responsible. Was that a good feeling or a bad feeling?
It was what I did not want.
You did not want that. Interesting.
It was bad, I just did not want it.
Why did you not want it?
I am more participatory. I'm not science. I'm psychology, so.
Okay, all right. So all right, so what do you think your label says?
Probably smart.
Smart or?
Nice.
Okay, why don't you take a head?
Probably neither one. I'm the leader.
Okay. All right. Interesting that was not necessarily a good experience, right? That isn't always a great experience for everybody. And how about you, sir? How did you feel in that activity?
About the same as the other one.
Okay. You were kind of like the last time. Okay. And how'd that make you feel?
Okay.
Okay. Did you feel like you could contribute?
Yes.
Okay. You feel people would give you the time of day in that second one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think you.
Oh, it's
I don't have a lot to contribute. So.
But I
Okay.
asked you.
She was trying to empower you the whole time, and you
I
didn't
guess
do
what I
it.
got the second one.
All right. Okay. Why don't you take your label off and see what you think?
Wow. I didn't feel invisible at all.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. They tried to make you invisible, but you weren't having any of it. Okay. All right. And how about you?
I felt clueless and unwelcome.
Clueless and unwelcome. Why don't you take your head? Perfect. Okay. And so probably how long would you have kept giving answers?
Like, I pretty much stopped. Anyway.
You stopped. No more, nothing. And how about yourself?
Apparently I was the funny one. I don't know.
Right.
But,
And how did that make you feel?
well, that's kind of always been me anyway, so.
Were you good? Okay. I'm going to take your... All right. Okay. All right. Give him a hand. Thank you. Just doing a time check. When am I done? What's that? Okay. Perfect. All right. I want to point out one more thing about that activity. We were having some fun with it. But they had an assignment. How does diversity trump the idea of the best and brightest? Because we had a leader. We could have just let her do it all. But the idea is that when people feel equal, valued, their ideas are welcomed, you get much richer experience and much better input. And your challenge as a teacher is to figure out how to get the students out of those labels. Because those labels are often not true. And here's the challenge. What I sometimes have heard, maybe you've heard it before the semester starts, a group of faculty are getting together. Oh, you have that student? She's really smart. Or, oh, he's so lazy, never turns his homework in. Before they even walk in the door, there's all kinds of labels going on. Right? I'm sure you've heard it. I'm sure you've never done it. It is often unconscious, certainly unintentional. It is subtle, it is pervasive, and it is powerful. And here's the important thing. It doesn't matter what your intent was. It matters about the impact on the receiver. You could have the best intentions. My mom did not want me putting too much butter in the mashed potatoes because clearly I've been eating a little too much butter. But it's how I received it. Right? And that's why we have to pay attention to the micro messages we send. And if we're not aware and we are unintentionally sending the wrong messages, students don't go into certain areas. They don't feel welcomed. Now, there are a number of key micro-messaging elements, which I'm going to go through quickly. And I'm wondering if I could get a few volunteers to come up again. But it's much less, I just want to be able to illustrate some points. So can we have 5 or 6 people, new people, come up, please? And, you know, if you want your students to take risks, you have to learn to take a risk, right? Come on, I won't hurt you too much. Okay. Come on. Hey, our first courageous. Come on. 5 people. Boom. Just get up. Come. Perfect. 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 5. Perfect. Come on up. Just, nope, right in the middle. These are my students. Good morning. Great to see you all. 1, 2, 3, 4. I thought I had a 5th. What happened to my 5th? One more. Did he drop out? Invisible? Come on down. Price is right. Come on. All right. Thank you. All right. So I'm just going to use each of you to illustrate because I want you to look at their facial and their body language as I illustrate some of these points, right? Well, good morning, Karen. Great to see you. Where do you get your hair done?
At a local salon nearby.
Okay. Why was I asking her that question? Why was I asking you that question?
You made me feel like my hair, I'm like, what's
Oh my God. Okay.
And it's kind of funny because I don't care about my hair as much as some people do. So
You have lovely days. You have lovely hair. But when you say, did you get your hair? Did you get your homework done? You know. And if any of you, for those of you who have children in the home or nieces or nephews or whatever, where are you going? Are you wearing that? Hello, you know exactly what I'm talking about. All I did was ask a question. No, it has a whole other meaning to these students. And remember, they're at a different developmental stage than you are, right? Okay. Did you go to the boss's office? Did you go to the boss's office? Did you go to the boss's office? 3 different messages, same message 3 different ways. Who got the best one? You pick it up pretty quickly. You guys are smart. Okay. How much loving did you get?
I gave you.
All right. Okay. So let's try this one more time and see how this goes. I'm an employer. You are both my employees, right? And it's your first day of work. Somebody else interviewed you. You're going to be working in a different division, but I'm the big CEO, and I'm coming out to welcome you. Noelle?
Yes.
Noelle, so great to have you here. I'm glad you're here. Shaday.
Yes.
Shaday. I have heard so much about you. I am so excited to have you here. I have to tell you the truth. I didn't think we'd be able to hire you. Your competencies were out the window. Anyway, thank you so much for coming. Great to have you here. Okay. All right. Who's going to stay in the job today? Right? Pay attention to your students. But you got to think about, they're watching you. It's so great to have you here. I had your brother in my class. He was fantastic. It was wonderful. Your name is Susan? Okay, good. Contextual. All women. Sorry. I know I'm driving. Oh. You know, I just thought of this. I have a lot of money in this purse, and you guys are looking a little suspicious to me. So I'm going to have to move this purse someplace a little safer. So I'm wondering if you would help me here. Could you take this purse, and my keys are here. Just go and lock it in my car for me.
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much.
Are the keys in here?
Yeah, you can get them, but wait. Before you go out to do that, I need you to, excuse me, I need you to. Okay, all right. All right, whoa! All right, thank you. All right, thank you very much. How'd that make you feel? It's a bag with some flowers on it. If it was a briefcase, it was black. It's a context. It's no different than, again, if a black, because it's a purse, there's a gender element to it, and asking a guy, you got to pay attention. And people who don't look in their rooms and pay attention to the experience that people have walking into those rooms, or what you're asking them to do, that makes them uncomfortable. Because I don't think you would do that as a full-time job, walk around. It's just not going to be comfortable in our culture. And you don't pay attention to that, your students pay attention to it. Okay, one more. So here's the deal. Ladies, I want to do a study for the College of Southern Maryland. And I would like to take you all out to lunch after this. Okay? So we're all going to get together. And by the way, Dr. Gottfried has kindly agreed to pay for the lunch at the best restaurant in town. We're going to have a beautiful meal. Everything is going to be fantastic. Will you come with me?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Now, after this meeting, we're going to need some cleanup. So will you help with the chairs? I really appreciate that. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. You've done a great job. Okay. So I'm not going to go through praise and criticism because I'm watching the clock, but I have to tell you that you all know praise and criticism. And the thing is, we just go through the motions every day. We're teaching. We're thinking, I got to really understand this complicated math equation. I have to teach this content. How do I move it into a problem-based learning? And what is it you want with me, Susan? I'm really busy. You know, we often hear from businesses, we hire for the hard skills, we fire for the soft skills. Students come into your class to learn the hard skills. They leave your classes because of the experience around the soft skills. Consider a moment in time when you felt unintentionally discouraged or hurt by something small someone said or did, or deeply valued by a colleague or family member in a small yet powerful way. How did you know? How did that person communicate your value? Is there anybody here who doesn't understand that experience? I would encourage you today to just take a little time to reflect upon that and maybe talk to some of your colleagues about it. What we have to do is inoculate and be affirmative. And I'm going to give you two examples of really quick ways. I want you to know this curriculum takes like a year, right? We're not talking about learning things in an hour. But I'm going to give you two examples so you understand what I'm talking about by inoculate. If I said to you, who's the person I gave a hard time to about your hair? Okay, perfect. If I said, I think, because you're with me now, right? We're like bosom buddies. If I said, your hair is horrible, you might say back to me, your hair is horrible. Right? Okay, so we're now in the horrible stage. And I said, well, your clothes, and then you might say, your clothes, and then basically we would really be into it, right? But here's something else you could say. I refuse that. I refuse that. You can put your hand up. I refuse that. You're not very smart, are you? I refuse that. Simple, simple, simple. But it has a huge impact in that it shuts down the person sending the negative message. You're not going to get into it with them. The moment you respond and affirm the negative comment, you're going down that path. I like my hair. I like what, you're there, you're gone. But if you say, I refuse that, and you try it, people will go, okay, well, I still hate your hair. Refuse that. Refuse it. Refuse it. Refuse it. It keeps you empowered. It rejects the inequity. I want everybody to stand up. We're going to do an affirmation. You're all tired, you're all quiet. I want you to find somebody next to you. Just try and double up, pair up, find somebody next to you. Can I get you to come up? Since you're a good sport.
I should have said it also made me feel kind of wanting to continue what I was doing because people are like, oh, yes, you're funny.
Okay, I'm running out of time, folks. We only got a couple minutes. And I don't know which clock I'm looking at. That one gives me about 2 minutes. That one says I'm over time, so I'm not sure which way I'm looking. This one's correct? Okay, thank you. Whew. Okay, so what I want you to do, and this is a real issue for a lot of people, and particularly women, we don't receive the gifts that people give us when we compliment them. You know what I'm talking about. Oh, you look wonderful. Oh, well, my hairdresser does my nail done. You did a great job on this conference, Julie. Oh, I had 1,000 other people helping me. It was really amazing. Well, you know what, Julie? You did a great job. And I'm picking on Julie because she's easy to pick on, I guess, or something. But we love her. And when you give somebody a compliment, it's a gift. And they should need to receive it. So it's absolutely okay for you to compliment all the people who help you. But you must first receive the gift. Thank you. Right? So I'm going to give you a gift. You rock. Hold your question. Tiffany, you rock.
Thank you.
You rock.
Okay.
You rock. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, this is what you're going to do. You're going to look at each other and 5 times. I'm going to do it 5 times to you. You're going to do it 5 times to me. I'm going to tell you, you rock. You rock. And you can change it up if you want. You are awesome. You are amazing. You rock. You got to say it 5 different ways. They got to be louder each time. And then you switch. And you've got about 10 seconds to do it. So let's go. You rock. No, you just say thank you. You rock. Thank you. You rock. You rock. Rock. Okay? Awesome. Thank you. Let's keep going. Follow. That's awesome. Thank you. You rock. Thank you.
You are wonderful.
Thank you.
Congratulations, you're the most amazing person ever.
Thank you.
Maybe we got 4.
That's fine. That was good. Okay, you can return your seat. Thank you. All right, everybody. Down you go. Down. I got 1 minute, and there's going to be one question, so don't make me hold you late. Here's what we know. Look at the room. The energy of the room. You cannot have somebody compliment you 5 times and not feel better. You want to create energy in a sleepy room, get up and do that exercise. It's an affirmation. Now, I'm not saying that we just throw around, ridiculous affirmations. Affirmations are an art. They need to be real. They need to be authentic. We don't just throw compliments to people. That's not what we're talking about. But everybody rocks at some point. The point is, though, is paying attention, finding those moments when students do amazing things and figuring out how to tell them how amazing they are so that they can see it in themselves, that they can accept that gift from you. It's really important. And here's what we know. For girls in STEM, the research shows that it enhances creativity, innovation, and willingness to take risks. It increases engagement in complex tasks and open-ended thinking. It improves caring about learning. And it increases interest in STEM and the development of girls and their self-identity. We know that teachers want research-based strategies. I'm telling you, this program it is 7 modules, 24 hours. There's a lot to it. I'm not going to go through this because that's less interesting. And it requires active learning. It requires talking to your peers and regular learning communities. It takes knowing the research. It takes applications in the classroom. It takes trying things out over the course of the semester. It takes a lot of reflection. It's not easy. It seems easy. Every unit, when we teach, talks about strategies, super strategies, things you can immediately take back into your classroom. Because if there's no application in your classroom, then who cares? And we care. And you'll get a copy of this, by the way. So if you didn't get everything, don't worry. So, did you learn about NAPE? Do you understand why we still focus on girls? Do you understand the new model? I hope you do. And if you don't, come and ask me. Okay. Thank you. You too. I want you to tell that to each other throughout the whole conference. Let's see how much you rock when we get through this conference. Okay, I got a couple questions. All right, come on down. Question. I see one right back there, blue shirt. You. No, don't look around. Yep, you. Come on down. And by the way, you can get these. It's just, you got to wait a month. You know. But she can show it to you. And there's some kudo cards that if you're nice to her, she might share some with you.
Well, my question actually comes out of my classroom.
Okay.
I'm having a problem with students with cell phones.
Aha.
And I have not every class, but I have this class, and it's a student success class. And so I'm trying to teach them success, how to be a successful student. And several students have come in with cell phones, and which is no problem in itself, and I know you can use them with different apps and so forth, but they don't always
attend.
They don't always attend when they're using cell phones. They're talking to each other on the cell phones. They're doing whatever they're doing. And so I said, well, would you put away your cell phone? Because there were 3 of them. Because right now we're doing something that I need you to attend to. You should be attending to. We're going to do an activity which requires what you're going to be learning in the next few minutes. And 2 of them, after a long pregnant pause, put their cell phones away, and a 3rd one did not.
Okay.
And this same behavior, and so finally, sort of a stare down, she finally put it away. And this went on.
Hold on a second. You're sending her a micro message that her message is not important, but it is. It is.
I'm sorry, but
let me just summarize. I think I get the idea. Cell phones versus attending, right? They're not paying attention because they're doing their. And there is a culture among young people today that multitasking is okay, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So here's the thing. One of the things we teach in neuroscience is the brain hasn't changed with the advent of the cell phone. Okay. What we know is that learning has always been the same. The brain is the same. Okay? And you can only attend to one thing at a time. You can have multiple things in the background, but consider driving a car. You're driving a car, and you are listening to the radio, and you have a friend talking to you. And an accident happens in front of you. You don't hear the radio, you don't hear the friend, you're now driving, right? Because you can only attend to one thing at a time. That's the way the brain works. And so the question is what's in the background? Is it the lesson, or is it the cell phone? And the reality is, they are responsible for their learning. And if they want to put you in the background, you'll be like the music in the background, they're not going to learn. And you care about their learning. You care. Because you think this is so important to their success. And so the use of the cell phone, and just talk to them like that. They explain about, that's what I would do. And of course, everybody's different. You can figure out if that works. But explaining a little bit about how the brain works and how it affects their ability to learn and how their choice is whether to get what you're trying to teach them, which you think is going to be really valuable, or to let them continue on the cell phone. Which I suppose they could do. Because learning and you've dedicated your life to your students and their learning. Help make that connection that you care. You're not the antagonist trying to take their phone away. You're the person who cares. And with little education, sometimes the students understand. They're more willing to understand that you're trying to help them. But it's all because they can really only focus on one thing at a time. And a lot of students don't think, because we do that whole multitasking thing. It's not true, folks. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you again.